Hello. I wanted to start this stream a little bit early, just to make sure that we got everything working. So I just want to say happy Thursday afternoon, everybody. It is great to have you here. My name is Ashlyn. I am a care coordinator for Care Team at WSU, and I'm also part of Student Affairs. And today I'm going to be talking about stress and anxiety. I think this is definitely pertains to us, especially now, given the situation and kind of the state of everything at the moment. Kind of with COVID, switching to online classes, having to stay home. And so today I'm just here to talk about some of those things, kind of how stress affects us in both a positive and negative way, as well as coping skills that we are able to use. And I'm also going to, at the end, lead us through just a little, a few minute guided meditation. So I just kind of want to get started here. So when we talk about stress and anxiety, what do a lot of people think of? What are some thoughts that come to our mind? Oftentimes we think of something negative, worrying about how we're going to do on a test, or worrying about our first day at work, how that's going to go. You might also have images in your head or scenarios, right? If I do this, or if I don't do this, or what if, and especially now, with the time of COVID, there's a lot of kind of uncertainty going around. We don't know how next week's going to be like. We don't know how next month is going to be like. And for a lot of us, our daily life, our normalcy has been a little uprooted. And so we just kind of need to keep that in mind as we're moving forward. So I just kind of want to talk about some ways that stress affects our mind, our body, and just kind of some actions that we can do, coping skills to kind of help reduce some of that stress. So as I mentioned, a lot of us think that stress is something that, is negative. It's a negative emotion. We don't want to feel stressed. We don't want to be anxious. We don't want to have any racing thoughts. But what if I told you that stress can also be very positive? A lot of people don't think so, but stress can be something as a motivator. And actually, stress is a good thing for us. Stress is what helps us do well on performances. Think of if you're in a music school and you've got a recital or you have to sing. It helps us when we play games, whether they're board games or video games with our friends, that healthy competition that we get going on with people. Stress also helps to sharpen our reflexes, our senses. It can also light what I like to call the fire under us, where if you're really nervous about a test, you're anxious about it, it might cause us to study a little bit more. So there are all different ways that stress can benefit us. The key is we don't want that stress to start affecting our function and how we operate and how we live. That's when that stress starts to take on a more negative tone. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for joining the stream. Again, just let everybody know we're talking about stress and anxiety. So I just kind of wanted to point up some things that stress does and how it kind of affects our mind. So as I mentioned, oftentimes we think of stress and it's kind of negative, right? Well, one of the things that I like to try to do is when we have those negative thoughts, try taking those and try turning it into a positive. So if you are worried about a test coming up and you're like, oh man, I really don't feel like I did very well on midterms, or I'm not sure I did very well on finals, instead go, you know what? I tried my best. I studied hard. I did what I can do. And that kind of brings us to just doing your best. We live in a society and in a world where we're expected to be perfect. We're expected to do everything right, everything by the books. And let's be honest, that's just not how life is. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. None of us are perfect. And so just giving yourself that grace and knowing that, hey, if you've tried your best, that's all that anybody can ask of you. You shouldn't be the hardest people on ourselves is us. And so give yourself some leeway, give yourself that grace. And so, just try your best and stay positive. Again, staying positive with that. If you have negative thoughts or negative images, change those into something that's more of a positive image, or a way that you say, you know what, I did this well, or I tried my best at this, or I just did your best. Another thing that we want to kind of keep in mind when we're thinking about stress and anxiety are our triggers. So for me, I have stress, I have health anxiety. And so that's really difficult during this time. With COVID, seeing everybody wear masks, talking about, on the news all the time, right? And so recognizing that those are my triggers. I'm sure everyone's familiar with WebMD, and I'm sure we've all, gotten that diagnosis reading on WebMD that we have some type of cancer, right? And so for me, knowing that that's a trigger, I take a break from the news. I take a break and don't go on WebMD. And you just have to recognize what it is that triggers your anxiety. As cliche as it might sound, the first step is awareness. That awareness of what's causing you to have some anxiety or causing you stress. When you're able to identify what your triggers are, when you're able to say, oh, I think this is what's going to cause me stress, or this is what causes me to be anxious, that is when we can start taking different steps to kind of remedy that. So for example, if you're really worried about a test, or you're worried that, finals are coming up and, you're not sure how it's going to go, you're a little anxious about it, maybe you study a little bit. Doesn't need to study an hour. Start now and just study a little bit every day. Just something small to just kind of keep you going. And use that as a motivator. Triggers can be used as motivation and as something to avoid. But again, knowing and recognizing those will definitely help you in your perspective and your circle of control, which we will talk about here in a few minutes, if anyone is familiar with the circle of control. So the next way that stress and anxiety can affect us is our body, right? So a lot of times mental health has a lot of physiological symptoms as well. And so, for example, think of sleep, right? We always want to make sure that we're getting a good night's sleep, a good night's rest, and making sure that we're keeping it relatively routine. Sometimes when we're feeling anxious or we're feeling stressed, we can sleep too much. Sometimes we don't sleep enough. But just remembering to listen to your body, listen to yourself. Oh, yes. If anyone has any questions at all, thank you very much. If anyone has any questions, don't hesitate to mention them in the chat. But, I think we really need to listen to our bodies. A lot of times we go on autopilot, right? We're just moving through the day. We're doing whatever we have to do. We get home, we're exhausted, we're tired, our mind's drained, our body's drained. And so really pay attention to that. Make sure you get a good night's sleep. Sleeping not only helps to strengthen your mind and give you resolve, but it also does help, especially during this time, to boost your immune system. The next thing I'm sure everyone is familiar with and has heard before is exercise. Now, I know that this is very hard. A lot of us are working at home or having to stay home. Gyms are closed, the rec center's closed, some parks are closed. But I encourage you guys to stay active, especially people that are working from home, students who are doing online classes. You really want to make sure that you're getting oxygenated, helping your body move, and getting that heart and that blood pumping. We're doing a lot of sitting right now and a lot of kind of holding in place, right? And so I encourage you to do some yoga, go outside and take a walk around the block, walk your dog. And a lot of people think, oh, Ashlyn, I don't want to get outside. Maybe you live in an apartment. You don't have the leisure of going in the backyard to do something. You can even just put out a mat or a blanket and even just doing some sit-ups, push-ups, even some squats, just something to help get that heart rate, raise that heart rate up, get that blood pumping and get some oxygen into your system can really help to boost your mood as well and to help kind of lower that stress, lower some of that anxiety. The next thing that can really help us is eating well, right? We don't always think about it. Again, sometimes because we're on autopilot, but we need to make sure that we're eating at least relatively balanced meals. Because we're doing a lot of sitting and stuff at home, I'm definitely guilty of this. Since working from home, I'm not super active. And so I may not be always really hungry, right, during lunches or during dinners. But still try to make sure that you're eating something, eating more than just a bag of chips or eating more than just snacking throughout the day. And if you're able to, try to sneak a fruit and a veggie in there. By no means are we going to be able to get a full serving. And I know that the grocery store is kind of a tough subject, but try to make sure to eat. Try not to skip those meals, and try to eat more than just a few snacks. And that's why, again, it's important to try to exercise and get moving a little bit, because that'll help that as well. The next one, and I am definitely guilty of this one, is we need to be aware of the amount of liquor or alcohol and caffeine and probably sugar that we consume. So if anyone is like me, in the morning, I like to have a cup, maybe 2, maybe 3 of coffee. And so just noticing that intake in caffeine can cause us to feel jittery, we might get a little shaky. It does increase our heart rate, but sometimes it can also increase our thoughts, right? I don't know if anyone is familiar, but typically when you have one negative thought or one thought that you're kind of worried about, it kind of spirals, right? Next thing you know, you've got this domino effect of, oh gosh, did I do this? Or did I study for this? Or am I going to get this work done? How is this class going to go? I've got a Zoom meeting. And sometimes, we need to take a step back and go, maybe instead of having so much caffeine, take that back just a little bit. Maybe just have 1 cup or 2 cups. Kind of limit that, because that's going to affect how you feel and what you're thinking. And that just heightens a lot of those symptoms that we also associate with anxiety. And the same with alcohol. Hey, I'm an adult and I was a college student once too. But being aware, because alcohol can, there's a quick switch between when you're just having fun and and relaxing to, you've had too much and it's a bad time. And not just a bad time in that you get sick, but just, again, it can increase those thoughts, increase emotions. And we want to make sure that we're being aware of that. The other is sugar. And again, this kind of goes back to the eating well and the snacks. It's almost Easter, but I don't know about you guys, but my family has stocked up on some candy, and all week we have been snacking on chocolate. And so you want to kind of just reel that back in too. Again, having too much sugar can make us jittery, can make us anxious, and it gives us some of those symptoms that we feel when we're stressed or when we're anxious. And that can heighten and lead us into that state. So just kind of being mindful, be aware of that, and just limit the consumption of some of those things. So the next thing that I just wanted to kind of talk about was the circle of control theory. This is huge. And this is a coping skill that you can use not only now during this time, but also during any stage in your life, new job, school, almost anything you can think of. So I have a handy dandy chart here, a little hard to see. I'm going to show it here. So this is what we're talking about when we talk about the circle of control theory. And what the circle of control theory does is it just helps to bring things into perspective and make you aware of your, kind of yourself and others. So in the center, this is the I, and this is what we, you, I can control. So for example, during this time, during COVID, I know there's a lot of information going on the news. There's a lot of talk about social distancing, washing your hands, what is essential and what's not essential. There's a lot of things in that everyone tries to kind of break down. And so I like to look at it as, in this situation, in this moment, what can I control? So I can control how far away I stand from somebody. I can control washing my own hands, wearing my own mask, and just taking care of my general self, right? Those are, so anything in life where you have direct control over it. So this can be, you have direct control on studying and doing your work. You have direct control and maybe walking your dog or getting some exercise. Just kind of keeping in mind what you can control really helps bring things into perspective. The next part of that circle is what we can influence. This one's a little bit hard and it blends a little bit of both. So, for example, if you're sending an email, let's say maybe to a professor, and maybe you're upset or you're heated or something happened in the moment, you can control how you react and how you respond. And if you respond in that email, maybe with language that's not as respectful, or if you respond in a way that definitely comes across that you're upset, you're not having a good time, that email then gets sent, and you then have influenced how your professor, how your boss, how your friend will respond to you. So that's kind of what that is saying. So, and in that, and that's where it's kind of hard to kind of wrap your head around that one. But we just, keep that in mind, in that even though we may not be able to directly control how another person responds to us or how they react, we can control how we respond and how we are going to react or address that situation. And however we respond is going to influence those around us. And so just being aware of that and kind of keeping that in your conscious as you move forward. The next box is the biggest box, and it's the one where a lot of our worries, our concerns, our stress comes from. A lot of our anxiety is in this third square. And this third square is what we have no control and no influence over. When you think of that, what does that mean? A lot of times we hear a lot of stuff on the news, right? We're not in control of what our neighbors do. We're not in control of what our governments choose to do. We're not in control of what our friends do, or even what our family does. And that's what's frustrating the most. And that's where a lot of that worry comes from. Often we worry about the things that we really don't have control over. Oh, what's the weather going to be like today? Do I need to do this or do that to make something happen? Don't know. And sometimes being able to break things down, I challenge you. Take this circle of control. It's pretty easy to make one like this at home or to Google it. Take this home and write down some things that you can control, maybe things that you have some influence over. And then what are things that you can't control? Maybe some things that you worry about that you have no control over. And that's okay. The point of this is to help bring that perspective in, make you aware, and to try to help bring you back to the present moment. So that was kind of the circle of control theory. So it's a lot to wrap our heads around, but there's also other ways that we can cope with stress and anxiety, and other ways that we can help and reduce some of those feelings. So that kind of brings us to some of our actions. As I mentioned, making yourself a circle of control at home, and looking around at your own personal life and saying, what can I do for myself? How do I affect others? And what do I worry about, or what am I concerned about that's out of my control? That's definitely one step, and that's one great way, again, to help pull things into perspective. Another one is just, some slow, deep breaths. So this is when we start kind of talking about actions, kind of talking about coping skills. So taking some slow, deep breaths when you're feeling kind of anxious, feeling overwhelmed, you just got done with a Zoom class, or let's say the internet's not working, right? out of your control. The internet's not working. You're trying to get it working. You've got a Zoom meeting for class. You're feeling yourself kind of starting to get a little upset. Take a step back. Maybe go into the other room. Sit down, kind of comfortable. Close your eyes. Take a couple deep breaths. Sometimes you just really need to separate yourself from whatever it is that's causing you anxiety. Whether it's the computer, whether it's living, right, when we're staying home. So some of us are living with parents, living with siblings, living with roommates, people we're not used to seeing on a 24/7 basis, right? It can really up your anxiety and your stress. Sometimes go into another room, take a step outside. Sometimes you got to take yourself out of that environment. Just kind of give yourself a couple deep breaths. Just kind of let yourself calm down, let yourself cool down. If doing deep breaths isn't, always the most helpful, you can always count. Another, counting till 10. Sometimes people like to count higher. If you're like, man, Ashlyn, I know breathing, I know counting. What else can I do? Well, another technique that is a great way to help bring yourself to the present moment and help bring yourself to some of that mindfulness, we'll definitely talk about that here in the next one, is the grounding technique. Those of you who are unfamiliar with the grounding technique, it helps to bring yourself to the present moment, brings yourself to things that are around you. So for example, name 5 things you can see. Maybe it's your desk, computer, dog, TV. All right, now name 5 things that you can hear. So I can hear my computer humming, hear kids playing basketball outside, hear my dog snoring. Now name 5 things around you, and what do they feel like? Okay, this desk feels really hard. It's kind of cold or smooth. My dog, right? She's warm and soft. How do the clothes feel on you? Feel kind of tight? Do they feel loose? Noticing things around you, things that you see, hear, smell, feel, those all help to bring your thoughts, bring your awareness to the present moment. And that is so important because a lot of times, just as I mentioned how our stress and anxiety is often things we can't control, a lot of times our worries are things that are either in the future or in the past, both things that we can't control, right? And so using the grounding technique, breathing, mindfulness, that all helps to bring those thoughts and bring them back to the present moment that you're in. Helps to kind of keep you aware of what's going on around you right now. Not in the future, not in the past, right now. Other ways that you can help with that mindfulness and aid in that is going to be doing things that just kind of bring your awareness back. Yoga is a very calming, also would be considered an exercise as well. That just helps to stretch your body, strengthen your mind, get you some, moving, get you some flexibility. Something else is meditation, and that's something that we'll do here at the end of this video. Guided meditation is a great way to help kind of bring yourself to the present moment and to keep those thoughts in the now. Music is a great one. I know lots of people who, man, when they have had enough, they plug in those earphones, or like my dad, for example, he's a great one. He goes outside, he's got the radio on, he's outside, and he just sits outside at the deck and just listens to music. And that's great. So if listening to music helps kind of just bring you back in, that's awesome. And so maybe trying to think of some other coping skills. Does anybody else have any other coping skills that work for them or that don't work for them? Maybe reading a book. One of my biggest ones that I love and that anyone who knows me, students, friends, family alike, knows that I definitely preach about the outside, getting back into nature. Something simple, something small, but boy, is it powerful. So let's think about it, right? What do you mean by getting back into nature? So if we're all working from home, you're a student, classes are online, maybe you don't have to go to work, so you don't have to, you're working in your PJs, You keep your room dark. You don't have to turn your lights on. Don't need to open your blinds, right? And you're just kind of laying doing computer work. And you start to wonder, man, I'm just not feeling it. Maybe you're feeling kind of blue. Maybe you don't know. Maybe you can't quite shake what it is. A lot of times we think, when we think of stress and anxiety, when does it hit us, right? It hits us at night, hits us before we go to bed, hits us when things are dark. There's not a whole lot of light out. And so if you're waking up and you're working, but your blinds are closed, you don't turn your lights on, maybe you don't get out, maybe you stay in bed and do some work, you're creating some of that environment that maybe causes things to be kind of dark, kind of slow, kind of gloomy. And it helps, it creates some of those feelings. And so I encourage you, I challenge you, open your blinds. You would be surprised by the amount of just positivity that bringing in some sunshine, some light will do. So if you live in an apartment like me and you're like, well, I can't go into the backyard, open those blinds up. Open those windows. Get some fresh air in your house. First of all, it's really important for us to air out our houses anyway, but get some fresh air, circulate some of that. If you've been staying home and stuff, sometimes the air can get kind of stale, right? So open up those windows, open up those blinds, turn your light on, get out of bed. Those are some of those things that you can do that do help boost mood. They help boost productivity, and they help boost positive thoughts. Something else that I encourage everyone to do. Oh, there. She's doing her resting there, isn't she? Something else that I encourage everybody to do is take a step outside. If opening up your windows and airing out your house isn't a possibility, put a chair outside and just sit out there. Get a little vitamin D, get a little fresh air, get that sunlight in. Especially now since a lot of us are at home, maybe it's really hard for people who live in an apartment. I know the struggle. And so take a 5-minute walk or a 10-minute walk just around the neighborhood. Sit outside in a chair, soak it up. Give yourself a break to get back into nature. And doing grounding technique outside is, for me personally, very enjoyable, right? There's so many things that you can see, so many things that you can hear, sometimes things that you can smell, and it's just nice. It's a nice change of environment, change of pace, and oftentimes I feel a lot more refreshed if I go outside and I just kind of sit, walk around, maybe tour your garden, look at other people's houses or the other yards, the other gardens. Just taking some time to get yourself out of the house, out of that space is amazing. And so I do encourage you guys, go into nature, see some things that are out there. The other one some other coping skills that I want to suggest to you guys, we are all familiar with how technologically advanced we are, right? We all have like a computer in our pocket. So with that in mind, there is a lot of great tools via the App Store or online that have started to come out that help with mindfulness, help with meditation, and help to manage and reduce anxiety and stress. So one of them that I found that I love and I actually use is Headspace. Headspace is free. There are parts of it where you can pay for it, but you don't have to. And Headspace is nice because it's an app that whether you're using it to go to bed or if you're using it for meditation, they've got tons of different ones: sleep, exercise, relaxation, breathing techniques. And what it is you can choose a time, 1 minute, 3 minute, 5, 10. I think it might go up to 30 minutes. And it just guides you through a meditation. It guides you through some breathing techniques. And that's something that I like to use. I definitely use it. I'm going to sleep, kind of helps to relax my mind. helps to kind of turn all that noise I have in my head off. But you can also use it if you're just needing a break, or if you got into an argument or your emotion is high. Use it to just kind of help cool you off. Another app that I found is called What's Up. Now, the What's Up app, I haven't tinkered around with it too much, but they have a lot of really great kind of like pages or articles, blogs that it has on there. So some of them, one of them is called Thinking Patterns. And in Thinking Patterns, it kind of helps to identify some of those common thoughts, those what ifs, those, oh, if I don't, or I would have this, had I, it helps to identify those thinking patterns and gives you different ways, more positive ways to think of things, to look at things, which I think is very important, especially right now. It also has a habit tracker. And so that is very important, especially during this time of COVID. Since everything has been uprooted, kind of that sense of normalcy a little bit, it's very important right now that we try to establish and find that sense of normalcy and that routine right now. That looks different for everybody, but if you are able to bring yourself some control by creating normal habits, creating normal routines, that's really going to help in the long run, especially as we continue on in these next few weeks and months. And so a habit tracker is really nice because you can track some of your maybe bad habits or triggers, and you can also track your positive ones. And that will really give you that awareness and that perspective. And it will kind of help you say, oh, okay, this is what I might be doing or what I see. And these are maybe some more positive things that I can do. And you can start to implement some of those. Another great app that I found is called the Self-Help for Anxiety Management, or SAM. So again, this one is very cool. It has a lot of self-care, ideas, coloring, reading, listening to music, watching a favorite TV show, cooking, cleaning, but it also has anxiety management strategies. So a bunch of different types of coping skills, ways to track that, and journaling options too, which if no one has ever journaled, or if you have journaled in the past and maybe let it go, that's something I encourage you to pick up. Sometimes when we have those negative thoughts, those stressors in our head, it's really good to get those out and put them onto paper. Put them somewhere, voice them somewhere. And a lot of people think, oh, Ashlyn, a journal. I don't want to write a paragraph. I don't want to write an essay. But a journal is personal to you, right? So your journal can be full of color. It could be a one word that describes today. It could be one positive interaction. It could just be a sentence. It could be a paragraph. It could be a drawing. It can be anything that you want it to be that helps convey to you maybe how you were feeling or how the day was, or something positive. And it also kind of will show you a trend, right? In both your thought patterns, how things are going. It just gives you a history, and it shows your growth. And that's something that I definitely want to stress to people is all of these techniques, all of these coping skills, there's no right or wrong. We're all going through life differently. No one's stress or anxiety is bigger than anybody else's. It's all personal to us. And so, just make sure to keep that in mind. Again, give yourself some grace in that. The next thing that I want to point out that I encourage people to do if they're also really struggling with stress and anxiety, especially students at WSU, talk to someone. Just as maybe journaling helps to get it out of your head and put it somewhere else, voicing it, talking about it, vent to somebody. I've got different people that I vent to, right? We've got parents, we've got that friend, we've got that animal. Doesn't matter who it is, vent. You've got to get some of those feelings, those thoughts out. And so if you're a student at WSU, you can contact CAPS. CAPS is our Counseling and Prevention Services, and they are still holding therapy sessions either via Zoom or on the phone. And you can give them a call at 978-4792. Another really great resource is Calm Care. Calm Care is a 24-hour service. You can talk to a case manager, you can talk to a therapist. And during this time, and a time of uncertainty, and mentioning that anxiety kind of hits us when it's, nighttime or on the weekend, or that 2 a.m., 3 a.m. time. And if you're thinking, well, I can't call my friend, don't want to wake them up. Can't call my mom, don't want to wake her up. What do I do? And, instead of sitting there and dwelling, give ComCare a call. 660-7500, 24 hours. And sometimes it's really nice to talk to someone who doesn't know what's going on, doesn't know you, doesn't know the situation, and can just give outside opinion, and just give you someone that validates you, that hears you. Because a lot of times that's all we need, is we just want somebody to hear us and to tell us, I hear you, and I hear that you're struggling. And that sometimes just makes us feel, wow, someone does hear me, someone hears what's going on. And so as we kind of wind down this live stream, I just want to kind of put some questions out to people. What are some coping skills that work best for you or that don't work? Coming up with a little list of maybe 5 or 10 coping skills that you'd like to try. Maybe they're new ones you've never done before. I encourage you to branch out a little bit. I encourage you to go outside, open those windows, get fresh air, take a walk, get some vitamin D. Next is definitely listen to your body, listen to your mind, take care of yourself. During this time, we're all trying to be healthy. We're all very worried about ourselves and of others. And so take care of yourself. Eat well, sleep well. Limit those things that maybe trigger you or that increase your anxiety, right? Practice your circle of control. Focus on what you can control and what you can't. And, those worries of the future and the past, they're always going to be there. And it's not going to happen overnight. But try to focus on what's going on right now. What I like to do is I try to help myself keep into perspective. So I like to think, okay, maybe I'll have a plan. What am I looking at this week? Or what am I looking at for tomorrow? Try to keep things in the present moment or very close. Don't stretch to the end of the year or what's it going to be like in summer. We don't know. Take it just one day at a time. What can you control right now? Mindfulness and meditation. Just keeping yourself calm, cool, collected. Talk to somebody. Some of those kind of skills there. So the next thing that I just kind of want to lead everybody through is just a really short, just kind of meditation. So if you can, get yourself in a comfortable position. Don't sleep, although you can lay down, but try not to fall asleep. Getting yourself into a comfortable position, maybe a quiet room, someplace where you kind of have some alone time. Just kind of close your eyes and take a couple just kind of deep breaths. Just focus on your breath a little bit, breathing in and out. You can do a body scan from the top of your head to your toes. With each breath and with each inhale, imagine air filling your lungs, and with each exhale, drop that tension away. Release that tension from your shoulders, from your hands, from your back. If you have thoughts that come and go, just let them come and go, but don't focus on one in particular. If you find yourself being stuck on a thought, bring your focus back to your breath. Bring your focus back to that breathing, that body scan. If imagery helps you, for me, I like to imagine when I inhale that I'm inhaling white light or white, maybe mist or light. Imagine that white light filling your lungs, distributing from your head to your toes. When you exhale, I like to imagine it as black smoke. Those negative thoughts, those worries, that tension, just let it all go. There's no right or wrong. Keep breathing long, deep breaths. When you feel ready, slowly wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers. Slowly wake that body up. I like to lean my head to the side and stretch. Stretch your neck out. Again, feeling and imagining that tension. Just being let go. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. I just want to thank everybody for coming to this stream. I want to thank everybody for participating and for all the people that made this happen. I encourage you, if you're wanting to get more information regarding stress and anxiety, as well as links and some of the apps that I mentioned, if you go to wichita.edu and you search student affairs, you will find we have a COVID section that has a list of various resources in the community. There's also a list to this stress and anxiety program. I have developed a 5-day program that just helps students and people in general. All of us need this, right? Just kind of helps give you kind of some daily skills or daily tasks that you can do to put into practice. And something I want to keep in mind too, again, no right or wrong. This is all for you, for ourselves, right? And the more that we practice, the better that we get. If you slip off one day, that's all right. You just hop back on. And so I just want to thank everybody. Yes, in the chat, if you look over, we will have those resources and those links listed. Thank you very much for coming to this stress and anxiety. If you need me or have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you so much for being part of the first episode of Care Talk. More to come, and I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you so much.